What's up, everyone? Welcome to Minecraft, and what I'm doing today is I'm going to start a project. One of the things I thought would be really cool would be to go through and build in sort of that 8-bit style some of my favorite Pokemon, maybe even do all of them depending on how many views this thing gets. So the first one I'm going to start with today is Bulbasaur, who of course is the first one. This wasn't the easiest thing to build. If you've built anything like the 8-bit stuff in Minecraft, you'll know that it's really hard to kind of keep your place, and you can't just go line by line. You kind of have to do it in chunks and hope that it all fits together. And I'm not the greatest builder, but in the end I'm pretty happy with how it came out. The bulb on the back of the Bulbasaur kind of looks a little bit wonky, looks a little bit bigger than any of the sprites that I found online. But it wasn't anything too distracting, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So you'll see me here putting down kind of the first part of his foot. It was a really kind of tough thing, a tough build to put together, because I ended up looking at kind of what some other people had done. A few people had used diamond blocks instead of turquoise wool, and that I just didn't like how that looked. So I ended up just using I think it's cyan wool, and gray and white for the feet and the foot, and for most of his body. But it was tough to kind of measure out how things go, and I had kind of a source picture from the game, an 8-bit picture, and I kind of went off of that and planned everything out. But it was tough to plan out where everything went and how everything fit together. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So if you're watching this, you probably know a little bit about Pokemon, at least, especially those of us that kind of grew up with it. You'll know that Bulbasaur is one of the first Pokemon you encounter. He's one of the first 3 starters. A lot of people never went with Bulbasaur, and I never understood why, because he's one of the easiest people to get through the game with, at least the early part of the game. Because he's a grass type, you can knock out Brock in the first gym and then Misty in the second gym easily, especially getting through Mount Moon, where it's just countless amounts of Geodudes. He evolves at level 16, but one of the things that makes him a good tank for the beginning of the game is the fact that he learns both Poison Powder and Sleep Powder at level 13, which is a great way to start catching Pokemon, and especially in the beginning part of the game, where you kind of just focus on grinding levels of your starting Pokemon. He has moves that can get you some of the first, Pokemon in the game. And also, if you watched the anime or the cartoon show Pokemon growing up, you'll know that Ash actually caught a Bulbasaur, which I thought was horribly unfair. That on the day that he's supposed to start his life mission, that he's always wanted to be a Pokemon master, he sleeps in late, and he ends up getting all 3 starter Pokemon. That's incredibly unfair. But I'm not the guy who wrote it. Ash catches Bulbasaur in Bulbasaur in the Hidden Village. It's that episode where they find that village in the woods and they get caught in all those traps, and Bulbasaur is the Pokemon protecting the village of the weak Pokemon. And in the end, after Ash and Team Rocket have their battle, Bulbasaur ends up battling Ash, and Ash catches him. And he really becomes kind of a staple for Ash's team. Interestingly enough, I don't think Bulbasaur ever evolved in the series. I know there are storylines where he like tries to resist evolving, but I can't remember Bulbasaur ever evolving through the series. So he stays on Ash's team through most of the series. I know he goes to like Professor Oak's to help intern or something like that. But he comes back when Ash is battling in the Indigo League. He helps Ash in one of the rounds. He's fighting that character Jeanette Fisher, and Bulbasaur gets sent out and defeats Beedrill, and then he defeats Scyther, and it looks like Bulbasaur is going to sweep the entire match until Bellsprout takes him out. One of the other interesting parts is kind of his friendship with Pikachu through the entire series. I remember there was one episode where there were a bunch of like random Pokeballs, and it was a bunch of trainers' Pokeballs that Team Rocket or something had stolen, and Pikachu is able to pick out which Pokeball belongs to Bulbasaur out of like these hundreds and hundreds of Pokemon or Pokeballs on the floor. So as you can see, I've kind of completed the first two front legs, and now I'm working on his mouth. This was a bit tough because it's hard to look at 8-bit sprites or like graph charts that people have made and kind of line up with everything, especially when you have those smooth textures that 8-bit models have. And I think the model I used for this one was the Fire Red and Leaf Green sprite for Bulbasaur. It's definitely one of the cleaner ones. And like I said earlier, I'd seen where some people used diamond blocks and kind of scattered them around where the turquoise blocks went, but I really didn't like how that looked. It just gave an odd definition to the wool and just didn't fit, and so I kind of just stuck with the one color scheme throughout the entire thing. So as I'm working on the mouth, after I recorded a lot of this, I started to go online and look at some of the interesting facts about Bulbasaur, which is a weird thing to say, that there would be interesting facts about a video game character. But I did find, and there are some things I didn't recognize. I didn't know that he was the only starter that's a dual type, and so he's both grass and poison, which makes sense because a lot of his attacks end up being poison, like poison powder and such. One of the other places you'll find Bulbasaur is in Super Smash Bros., specifically in Super Smash Bros. Melee and Brawl, which is one of my favorite game series. I'm so excited for the new one. Specifically, I'm excited to play Mega Man and have Mega Man and Sonic and Mario in the game. That's just going to be one of the greatest things ever. But Bulbasaur ends up being one of the trophies in the game that you can get. And not Bulbasaur, but I think Ivysaur is in the latest one as the Pokemon Master, where you can be Squirtle and Charizard and Ivysaur. So what I went ahead and did was I cut out a large bit of the kind of just random turquoise blocks that I put in. This video would have ended up being over 20 minutes long. It took me about 40 minutes to make the entire thing. I think more towards 50 minutes. And I don't think anyone wants to sit and watch me build something for an hour. So I've sped up the video a little bit, played around with some of the settings, and I'm probably going to cut some other stuff so that you can just see the highlights of what I built. The top of Bulbasaur, like the bulb, was definitely the hardest spot for me to build, just because there's not a lot of definition, at least in the pictures that I looked at, between dark green and light green, so I was kind of left to figure out how far certain things go out and, you know, how deep they go down. And it doesn't look perfect. It looks a little bit janky, but it looks passable. I mean, for what I'm trying to do and kind of my first, you know, attempt at this, I'm pretty satisfied with how it looks. You can see the bulb is kind of a little bit out there. I probably could have brought it in about 3 blocks, but it doesn't look bad. So there it is, finished it. I'm really happy with it, actually. The way it looks, I really like kind of the choices I made to not use diamond blocks. And I went back a little bit and played around with some other things as far as where other black blocks can go and outlining and stuff like that. But in the end, I really feel like I did a decent job. And I really enjoyed it. I really like doing these kind of 8-bit art things. Hopefully y'all enjoyed watching. I would love to see other people do this too. I'm probably going to start off with just doing some of my favorite Pokemon instead of doing the 150, but if it gets enough views and this thing kind of takes off, then great. I'm happy to do all 151, or even if it gets to that. So hopefully y'all enjoyed. Like and subscribe to see more, and thanks for watching.